Hello, everybody, and
Hello,
welcome
everybody, and
to another
welcome to
episode
another
of
episode
the
of the
Hau
Hau
Huddle show
Huddle
with two
show with
cousins
two
who love
cousins who
talking
love
about the
talking about the
NFL. My name is
NFL. My
Andrew
name is
Howe,
Andrew
joined
Howe, joined
alongside Xavier
alongside
Howe,
Xavier
and we
Howe,
are now at the
and we are now at the
halfway point of the
halfway point of the
2025
2025
NFL
NFL
season. It's
season.
time to
It's time
recap
to
some of the
recap
biggest
some of the
games
biggest
of the
games of
last
the
week,
last
and
week, and
also get
also get
into
into
some
some
awards for
awards
the
for the
midseason, and of course,
midseason, and of
taking a
course,
look
taking a look
at the
at the
NFL trade
NFL
deadline.
trade
Xavier,
deadline.
it's a great
Xavier,
week
it's a
of
great
football.
week of
How are you
football.
doing
How are you
today?
doing today?
Doing amazing. How are you?
I'm doing
I'm
great,
doing
and
great, and
especially because we
especially
have
because
so
we
many
have so
fun
many fun
games that we get
games
to
that we
talk
get to
about
talk
here
about here
today. Let's
today.
kick things
Let's kick
off, and
things
let's
off
go
and let's
quick
go
because there's
quick
a
because
lot of
there's a lot of
really
really
fun
fun
games to
games
talk
to
about.
talk
Starting
about.
off with the
Starting off with the
Bears taking
Bears
down the
taking down the
Cincinnati Bengals
Cincinnati
in what
Bengals in
could
what
be
could be
the
the
craziest
craziest
back-to-back
back-to-back
stretch
stretch
for a
for
team
a team
in the
in the
NFL that I've
NFL
ever
that I've
seen.
ever seen.
Cincinnati in
Cincinnati in
back-to-back weeks
back-to-back weeks
lose by
lose
1 point to
by
the
1 point to the
Jets
Jets
and then
and
lose
then
by
lose by
5 points to the
5 points
Bears,
to the Bears,
both in the last
both in the
second,
last
and
second,
in
and
both
in
games that
both
they
games
scored
that they
more than
scored more than
38 points. I
38
mean, this is
points. I
just
mean, this is just
unbelievable, Xavier.
unbelievable, Xavier.
Yeah, and it just comes to show that without defense, you can't win any games. And like, even though their offense is really good, T. Higgins, DeMar Chase, they got Joe Flacco who's playing decent. The defense just holds everything up. 47 points, even though they put up 42, 47, and then 39 is kind of crazy. Also to the Jets, and they lost, and the Bears.
Yeah, Joe
Joe
Flacco set a
Flacco set a
career high
career
in
high in
passing yards
passing
at
yards at
over 40
over
years
40
old,
years old.
470 yards. You
470
don't see
yards. You
that
don't see
very
that
much
very much
anymore. Four
anymore. 4
touchdowns.
touchdowns.
They even
They
got
even
the
got the
onside kick
onside
to
kick to
and then
and
eventually
then
scored
eventually
to
scored
take
to
the
take the
lead.
lead.
And then at the
And then at the
very
very
end,
end,
Colston
Colston
Loveland goes
Loveland
all the
goes
way.
all the
Hey, a
way. Hey, a
great
great
breakout
breakout
performance for the
performance
rookie
for
out
the
of
rookie out
Michigan
of
as well
Michigan as
here,
well
Zave.
here,
But
Dave. But
I mean,
I mean,
for
for
the Bengals, it's just a
it's just a
disaster. But you got to
disaster.
feel
You
pretty
gotta feel
good
pretty
if
good
you're
if you're
Chicago,
Chicago,
not about the
not about the
defense, but
defense,
certainly
but
about your
certainly about your
offense.
offense.
Yeah, Caleb Williams, we got like 40 fantasy points. You gotta be hopeful for your two rookies that absolutely popped off. You got Monungai and Loveland finally had his big game, and that's something that you want to see.
Yeah, great game for Kyle Monungai as well. Another rookie out of
Out of
Rutgers, Big
Rutgers,
Ten
Big
action
Ten
here
action here
to allow
to
them
allow
to
them to
get the
get the
win over
win over
Cincinnati.
Cincinnati.
Talking about the
Talking
NFC
about the
North, let's
NFC
stay
North,
right
let's
up
stay
there
right
with the
up there
Minnesota
with the
Vikings
Minnesota Vikings
beating the
beating
Detroit Lions. Detroit here, Xavier, now at 5-3. What do you think is the biggest problem for them so far this season?
So far this season, the biggest problems, I think it's just like I feel like maybe like they like get their ego up like even like after being like the Bucks 24-9, and then they're like, oh, we're at home, we're gonna win, and they just like lose to the Vikings, a team that they should have beat. And like before with the last loss, they beat Cincinnati by a lot, and then they lost to KC by 2 touchdowns, and then yeah.
It's definitely not the same Lions as they were a year ago. Meanwhile, the Vikings actually look good again with J.J. McCarthy coming back into the lineup. 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, or 2 passing, 1 rushing. And he didn't do anything super spectacular, but certainly a good job by him making his return alongside Aaron Jones.
Yeah, good rookie performance by him, and that's all you ask out of him. And if he plays like that, then they can beat the Lions.
Yeah, let's move right along to the Steelers and the Colts. This was a big matchup in terms of AFC playoff seeding. The Steelers really needed a win after kind of having a pretty bad performance against Green Bay just a week ago. And they were able to do it. They are now just the second team to hand Daniel Jones and the Colts a loss. And coming off the back of just, I guess, solid defensive play overall. They forced 5 turnovers against the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts only had a couple, 2 or 3 going into the entire season.
Yeah, and it's kind of crazy how they kept JT to no touchdowns and 45 yards. And also Danny Jones with 3 picks. I mean, to give all the credit to their defense this 1 year, because Steelers defense is like really good. But, like no one really thinks of them as like the big X factor. But they really are, and they really can beat. And even if the offense, like the stats aren't that great, they got the job done, and the defense played amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you think about the Steelers and the defense being kind of whatever, but you look down at the line. Their name, they got some names there, right? Joey Porter, Jalen Ramsey, obviously T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward. Like, there's definitely people in that defense that can make some plays, and we obviously saw it here against the Indianapolis Colts. And now you got to be a little bit worried about what Indy is going to look like, moving along the rest of the season. But for now, pretty excited for the Steelers to be able to bounce back in that way. Let's go on to the big event here. Bills Chiefs. This is a Buffalo Bills win, and they look pretty dominant throughout, Xavier.
Yeah, and holding the offense, limited yards, and Josh Allen doing his thing. James Cook over 100 rushing yards. It's just another solid game by the Bills, and they do this every game, and they basically win almost every game. And if they do this, they could maybe even beat the Chiefs in the playoffs if they face them, and not just in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, there was still some really good play by the Chiefs. Rashee Rice had a couple of really nice plays. They had that 4th and 15 or 4th and 18 that they somehow ended up converting because that's just what Patrick Mahomes ends up doing. But overall, not a great game when you look at the general stats for Kansas City. Mahomes had his first game, I think, in his career with a completion percentage of lower than 50%. Meanwhile, Josh Allen set a Bills completion percentage record, only having 3 incompletions the entire day. Meanwhile, for scoring 3 touchdowns for the Bills, 2 on the ground and 1 through the air to Dalton Kincaid. Gotta feel excited about Buffalo here, Xavier. The only thing is they've had some really weird losses, which does maybe make people a little bit concerned. Of course, they lost to the Patriots in that kind of last-second situation, and then also to the Falcons in what was kind of an off game for them. But overall, the fact they've been able to pick some of these big wins is definitely a good sign for them.
Yeah, definitely. The sign you want to see of them is beating the Chiefs and, Josh Allen 23 for 26.
Yeah. All right. Well, before we fully get into the nitty-gritty of the trade deadline, Xavier, let's do a little bit of a quick, perhaps analysis of some bad stuff that happened in terms of some quarterback injuries. Some of our young stars end up going down this week. Jaden Daniels has a broken arm. He will be out for the rest of the season. C.J. Stroud also getting hurt in that game against the Broncos. Which team still has? Do either of these teams still have a chance, or do you think that with both of those quarterbacks going down, they're kind of both out of it at this point?
To me, I think the Commanders are definitely out of it because with Marcus Mariota, as an Eagle fan, I know that, to be honest, we kind of had this division in the bag without Jaden Daniels. But also for the, Texans, if they have Davis Mills at quarterback, and they have a really low chance at winning the division. But, C.J. Stroud's got to come back soon, or else their chances are just going to get lower.
Yeah, thankfully for Stroud, it's just a concussion. Obviously, we'll see how much that ends up actually impacting him. He's definitely out for this week though against Jacksonville. That's going to be a really important game for them, Xavier. Houston is trying to scramble to get back into this thing, as they've kind of gotten off to a slow start, specifically on the offensive end. If they lose this game to Jacksonville in Week 10, suddenly go down to 3-6, makes it pretty difficult for them to have an angle to come back with Indy and Jacksonville playing the way that they're playing right now.
Yeah, and that division is, to be honest, low-key looking not as bad as we thought it did with the Colts, Texans, Jaguars, and the team's got to really fight for that spot because it's hard for them to see them going as one of the wild card spots. So you imagine you have to win the division.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck in the recovery for both those quarterbacks. I'm really sad to see Jaden Daniels injury and that he's not going to be able to play for the rest of the year, especially because there's such a kind of nothing point in the game. Hopefully he's going to be all good for next year. But let's get into this trade deadline now, Xavier, because there were some really interesting moves that went down. I think the first place we have to go is actually still in the AFC South with the Indianapolis Colts, because they traded for Sauce Gardner from the New York Jets. They trade away Adonai Mitchell and a couple of first-round picks, 2 of them actually. And that is a very big gamble for a Colts team that has struggled for the last couple of years. But they think that they're going to be good enough that those first-round picks are not going to matter in terms of getting Sauce Gardner, one of the best cornerbacks in the NFL, on their team.
I like the move by the Jets here, and I like the move by the Colts. Colts and this is our year. We don't care about those first-round picks in 2027. But the Jets, I think they did great because they got 2 first-round picks out of Sauce. And, right now, of course, they're not going to make playoffs this year or next year. So you might as well just get that value for the 2 first-rounders. And the Quentin Williams, they have 3 first-rounders. I think that's a lot of great value, but, trading their 2 best players on defense.
I'm A little skeptical about this one, Xavier, for Indianapolis. Whenever you see two 3 first-round picks get traded in the NBA all the time. You almost never see 2 first-round picks get traded in the same trade in the National Football League. So seeing that happen here is a very big risk, I think, especially because the Colts don't really have a track record, right? And Daniel Jones is having this miracle season, but who knows if he's going to actually be able to stay put. To me, the biggest piece of their offense that I really actually have any faith in is Jonathan Taylor. Everybody else, they're having great years, but who knows what they can look like in the long run. And then you look at the Colts' schedule here, Xavier. I'm going to name off every single team that the Colts have to play for the rest of the season. Listen to this. They play the Falcons here in, I think it's Berlin this Sunday. Then they have a bye. Then it's Chiefs, Texans, Jaguars, Seahawks, Niners, Jaguars, Texans. None of those are free wins. None of those are like the Tennessee Titans, the Arizona Cardinals, the Las Vegas Raiders that Indianapolis has played earlier in the season. That's a tough schedule. I wouldn't be surprised if Indy ends up 11-6 here at the end of the season, or 10-7 somehow, and then all of a sudden trading away those 2 first-round picks definitely looks a little bit more scary. So they need to be able to have Sauce Gardner come in and really lock down this defense if they want to make this trade successful.
Yeah, and for 2 first-round picks is like you said, it's crazy. A lot of value from him. Taking a big risk. I feel like some people have said like Sauce is having an off year, but like if he's a bust, the Colts are just like what are they doing?
Yeah, I mean. I think that Sauce is still pretty good. It's hard to shine as a cornerback if you're on like a bad team because they just target the other cornerback instead and you never end up doing anything. So I'm curious to see what Sauce is able to do now in a new environment on a winner, and having an opportunity to potentially be a contender. But I am still a little bit worried about the Colts. I'm definitely going to say that. Let's talk about 2 wide receivers that went to various teams. First is Rashid Shaheed that went over to the Seattle Seahawks. Seahawks traded away a 4th and a 5th. And then the Jaguars trade for Jacoby Myers. Now, Travis Hunter is injured still. Brian Thomas Jr. dealing with something in his shoulder as well. So definitely a good move for the Jaguars to get themselves a receiver. Also give up a 4th and a 6th-round pick from the Raiders, who were trying to get rid of Jacoby Myers for a while now. Which one of these moves do you like more?
I think for the Raiders, I feel like they were just forced to just chuck Jacoby Myers somewhere. So I feel like the Jaguars just end up with them. Meanwhile, Shaheed, I think that's a great move because they don't really have a dominant wide receiver 2 in the Seahawks, and Shaheed could really create a lot of space for JSN, or he could get open a lot because with that breakaway speed, I feel like you see a lot of big plays here with Sam Darnold in his offense. I think that's a great move by him.
Yeah, think about what the Vikings were able to do last year with Sam Darnold. They had 2 really big threats in the receiving room with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. And then he had a really solid tight end, TJ Hawkinson. I feel like the Seahawks have kind of set up a similar situation for themselves here now because obviously we've seen what JSN can do. But Shaheed is also a player that can go on these really explosive plays, can get 50, 60-yard receptions. We've seen that with Derek Carr and the Saints, and especially recently. So you pair him alongside JSN, and then you have AJ Barner, who's starting to really shine as a young player in this league at the tight end position. I think the Seahawks have a very interesting core that has been locked down. They're also a weird team to me, like the Colts, where I'm not fully sure if I'm still 100% bought in at 6-2, but their schedule looks a little bit easier than perhaps Indianapolis is. So that's why I think I'm excited to see what they have to do with Shaheed. Jacoby Myers to the Jags is interesting, but I still need to see a little bit more of what Jacoby Myers is able to do at all, because it's been a while since he's been a real threat. Obviously, he had 1,000 yards last year, but the Raiders have just been such a nothing franchise for the last couple of seasons that I don't really remember him being super dominant recently.
Yeah, everyone was just waiting for him to just pop out because he's really super consistent. But this year has been a different story, so we'll see if he gets back in track in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your
Let's talk
Eagles
about
real
your Eagles
quick.
real quick.
They get
They
Jalen
get
Phillips
Jalen
from the
Phillips
Miami
from the Miami
Dolphins. I
Dolphins.
mean,
I
quick
just
thoughts
quick
about
thoughts
that
about
because
that because
I feel like this
I
could
feel
be
like this could
another
be
really big
another really
move. The
big move.
Eagles
The Eagles
doing a pretty
doing
good
a pretty
job,
good job,
bolstering their
bolstering
offense
their
or their
offense or
defense.
their
I should
defense. I
say.
should
Let's
say.
talk about
Let's
all
talk
the
about
Eagles
all the
trades
Eagles
actually
trades
because
because
they got
they got
obviously
obviously
Jalen Phillips
Jalen
from the
Phillips from
Dolphins,
the
but then they
Dolphins, but then they
also
also
traded for
traded
Jair
for Jair
Alexander, who we
Alexander,
haven't
who
seen
we haven't
much of
seen
this
much of
year,
this year
from
from
Baltimore, and then
Baltimore, and
also
then
Michael
also
Carter
Michael Carter
II
II
from the
from the
Jets. Do you
Jets.
think
Do you
that
think
this
that this
defense really
defense
needed
really
this
needed
much of
this
an
much of
upgrade?
an upgrade?
Harry Roseman said he needed to go all in. Our defense was already good to start with, but I'll say that our defense is more of a weakness than our offense, definitely, even though it's an amazing well-rounded team. We needed an edge. We got him, and, I like Jalen Phillips, and, in Miami, I've always seen him, and, he's always been getting better each year, and I like that move. Jair Alexander, I think that's just, padding our cornerback help, because right now I see Jair isn't, playing as well, but, we'll use him as a veteran, and Michael Carter second too, because our defensive back room is now padded, and that's what we needed. So I think the moves were necessary, but 3 trades is a lot.
I'm really
I'm
excited to
really
see what
excited to
Jalen
see what
Phillips
Jalen
does on
Phillips
this
does on
team.
this team.
I really
I
liked
really
him,
liked him,
on the
on the
Dolphins when
Dolphins
they
when
were
they were
competing
competing
for a
for a
championship, or
championship,
no,
or
not a
not a
championship, when they were
championship,
making
when they were
that big
making that big
playoff run a
playoff
couple of
run a
years
couple of
ago.
years
He
ago.
was in Hard
He was in
Knocks.
Hard
He's
Knocks.
seems
He's
like a really
seems like
good
a really
guy.
good guy.
He's been
He's
kind of
been
injury
kind of
prone,
injury
which
prone,
maybe you have
which
to be a
maybe you
little
have
bit
to be a
worried
little bit
about.
worried
But
about. But
I think
I think
overall,
overall,
still a very
still a very
exciting
exciting
set of players
set of
coming
players
in.
coming
I think
in.
he's
I
the
think he's
biggest
the
piece,
biggest
though.
piece, though.
Obviously, of
Obviously,
course.
of course.
Perhaps maybe we'll
Perhaps
see
maybe
some
we'll see
magic
some
come out of
magic come
Jair
out of Jair
Alexander, but
Alexander,
not
but
doing
not
much
doing
here
much here
in
in
Baltimore
Baltimore
recently.
recently.
Last thing I want
Last
to
thing
touch
I
on
want to
here,
touch on here,
Xavier.
Xavier.
What do you think the
What do you think the
Cowboys
Cowboys
have in
have
store
in
here?
store
Because
here?
they got
Because they
Logan
got
Wilson
Logan
from the
Wilson from the
Bengals, and they
Bengals, and they
also
also
went for another
went for
trade and
another
got
trade and
Quinton
got Quinton
Williams from the
Williams
Jets,
from the
which is a
Jets, which is a
big
big
deal for
deal
them.
for them.
Obviously, with Micah
Obviously, with
Parsons
Micah
gone, they
Parsons
needed
gone,
some
they
help on
needed
their
some help on their
defense, but
defense, but
especially after their
especially after their
embarrassing loss to
embarrassing
the
loss to
Arizona
the Arizona
Cardinals, as Jacoby
Cardinals and Jacoby
Brissett,
Brissett.
do you think
Do you
that
think
this
that
team
this
is
team
in any
is in any
position to
position to
contend, even
contend,
though
even though
they have
they
made some of
have
these
made some of these
defensive
defensive
moves?
moves?
To be honest, I really don't think so. I'm not buying in on Dak and this offense, even though they have the pieces. Their team just isn't good enough and doesn't know how to win games. I mean, it's just like the past few years, it's not been a winning franchise. And even though they made those moves, I think they could possibly jump. But to be honest, I don't really believe right now in them. The defense, adding 2 players, I might do something, but Micah Parsons is better than that. So, I mean, if they just kept him, I feel like they would have had a better choice. But, if they need D-line, they went out and got them. So, we'll see how it goes.
I'm not so
I'm not
sure
so sure
about
about
these moves for the
moves for the
Cowboys. I thought
Cowboys.
that
I
they were
thought that
kind
they
of
were kind of
fraudulent from the
fraudulent from the
start.
start.
Especially because one of their
One of
wins
their
early in the
wins early
season
in the
was
season
that
was that
just like
just like
terrible game
terrible
that the
game that the
Giants played,
Giants played,
where
where
I felt like the
I
Cowboys
felt like
had
the
no
Cowboys
business
had no
winning that
business
one.
winning that
Brandon
one.
Aubrey
Brandon
basically
Aubrey
saved
basically
them at the
saved
very
them at the
end.
very
But
end. But
when you think about
when
it,
you
I
think about it, I
guess
guess
taking a step
taking a
back,
step back,
you know,
you know,
the
the
Cowboys, their
Cowboys,
defense
their defense
certainly is
certainly
a bit
is a
of
bit
an
of an
issue, but
issue, but
maybe this
maybe
helps
this
them
helps
as
them
well a
as
little
well a
bit.
little
Their
bit. Their
schedule is
schedule
also
is
super
also
tough. I
super
mean, they play
tough.
the
I mean, they play
Raiders
the
first,
Raiders first,
and then the
and then the
Eagles,
Eagles,
Chiefs,
Chiefs,
Lions,
Lions,
Vikings,
Vikings,
Chargers.
Chargers.
5 games in
5
a
games
row.
in a row.
They end
They
things
had
with
things with
the Commanders
the
and the
Commanders
Giants,
and
which
the
I
Giants,
will
which I
say,
will
I think
say,
that
I think that the Jalen
Daniels injury
injury
maybe helps them
maybe
out a
helps
little
them out
bit,
a little
but
bit, but
I think this
I
is
think this is
just
just
an
an
over-indexation here for the
over-indexation here for the
Cowboys. I'm
Cowboys. I'm
surprised that they
surprised that
tried to
they
go
tried to
and
go
buy,
and buy,
especially after
especially after
that loss to
that loss to
Arizona.
Arizona.
They should be getting draft picks right now, if I'm honest with them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean, just
this should have been
this
a
should have been a
rebuilding year from the
rebuilding year
start.
from the
As soon as you
start. As
trade
soon as
Micah
you trade Micah
Parsons, and they
Parsons,
keep
and they
trying to
keep
make it
trying to
not
make it
the
not the
case,
case,
and
and
I think they're going to
I think they're
keep
going to
digging
keep
themselves
digging
into a
themselves
bigger
into a
hole.
bigger
I'm
hole.
very
I'm
worried
very
about what
worried about
this
what
Dallas
this Dallas
franchise
franchise
is going to end
is
up
going to end
looking
up
like
looking
here.
like here.
All right, Xavier,
All right,
we
Xavier,
got
we
our
got
halfway
our
point
halfway
of the
point of
regular
the regular
season.
season.
So
So
I guess real
I guess
quick,
real
let's just
quick, let's
do
just do
our
our
midseason
midseason
MVP.
MVP.
Let's pick
Let's pick
a player
a
that we
player that
think
we think
is
is
really the best
really the
player
best
in
player
the
in the
NFL right now.
NFL
I
right
guess you
now.
can
I
go
guess you can
first.
go first.
I kind of want to throw this wild card out right now. I know you might not. I know this is tough, but like, I just right now, like Drake May, I feel like he's like top 3 in the league right now, and his Patriots are what, like 7-2. I mean, he's just like balling out, and he's literally been super consistent. He's having an insane year, and his Patriots are like winning games and lots of points, 7-2. It's just crazy. And, I just feel like right now I have to give it to him because he's like a very valuable piece to their team. Because like if you look at the receivers, what they have like Stephon Diggs, and their running backs are uncertain. It's just Drake May just balling out and just being super consistent.
Feels pretty similar to a player in his division a couple of years ago, Josh Allen, when he first started coming up. He had Stephon Diggs. His run game wasn't necessarily the best, but ended up starting to pick up wins. I feel like that is an interesting parallel that we can maybe start to throw over here to them. Well, I think Drake May is having a fantastic season. I want to shout out Matthew Stafford on the Los Angeles Rams. He has 21 touchdowns and 2 interceptions this season. At the age that he is at, he's 37, going to turn 38 later this year. I mean, he's coming off of another incredible game that the Rams ended up pulling off against the New Orleans Saints, where he threw for 4 touchdowns and no picks. Last week in London, he threw for 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. This guy is on an absolute tear right now in the NFL. And I think that the Rams are at 6-2. They're looking great. Him and Puka have an awesome connection. I would have shouted out Jonathan Taylor as well, although he did have a pretty bad game last week. But man, I think Stafford deserves some love as well.
Yeah, and I feel like he's underappreciated too.
I mean, I'm very curious to see how the rest of the season goes. We're at the halfway mark, but still so much left to get excited about as we wrap up the year. Let's go into some games that we can start predicting here for Week 10 of the NFL season, Xavier. Let's start off here. Oh, man. Let's go to a bit of a wild card at the 1 o'clock slate. Ravens-Vikings. Now, this is Lamar coming back after, of course, he had a really good performance in his return from injury on last Thursday night. He threw 4 touchdowns against Minnesota, who might be coming off of a little bit of momentum and are at home hosting Baltimore. Who do you think wins this game?
You're right. This is a sleeper game, and both teams coming off amazing wins, but like, I just think it's up to the quarterback play. If I'm being honest, because if Lamar has a great game, I think the Ravens are going to win. If McCarthy has a great game, I think Vikings will win. But I'm just playing on the safe pick with the quarterback player, so I'm going to take Lamar. I'll say it's close though. I'll give it pretty high scoring, 31-23.
This is going to be a fascinating game because obviously Lamar looked great last week. But you have to go with the caveat that it was against the Dolphins. The Dolphins are not very good, right? So now a bigger test. They're going to be on the road as well in Minnesota. I'm going to say the Ravens win too, 27-21 maybe. But this is going to be a big test for them. I think JJ has a good opportunity here to prove himself if he gets this win to be big.
Yeah, must win for the Ravens here too.
Must win for the Ravens. If they go down to 3-6 just like the Bengals, that would be tough. Okay, let's go on to another big game. Patriots-Buccaneers in the 1 o'clock slate. 7-2 Patriots against 6-2 Bucs. We're talking about MVP candidates. Baker, who was all the way up there at the start of the year, although he has maybe cooled down a little bit here, Xavier. Who do you think wins this matchup in Tampa Bay?
Another matchup of 2 great quarterbacks. Oh my gosh. Another sleeper pick, which no one probably thought this would be a good game, but here we are in the NFL. At Tampa Bay, I just feel like it's going to be another one of those Baker's drives, if I'm being honest here. But I don't think any team's going to have an off game. I feel like they're both going to be full blast. But, I just think Baker leads to a game-winning field goal. I'll say it's tied 21-21, and then Chase McLaughlin hits it 24-21.
I think if Bucky Irving is playing, I feel more confident in the Bucs' chances. He hasn't been cleared just yet. There's still a chance that he plays, but we're not 100% sure just yet. And because of that, I'm going to take the New England Patriots. I think they have such great momentum right now. Tampa's a little bit beat up right now with obviously Mike Evans being out for the rest of the year, with Bucky Irving being hurt for the last few weeks. And we've seen their play kind of struggle a little bit recently. That loss of the line certainly didn't feel super great. So I'm going to say the Patriots. I think they're going to keep riding that momentum. I think they'll win this one 28-20 in Tampa Bay on the road. A big win for Drake May to pull himself up to 8-2 on the season. And remember, this is one of the Patriots' last big tests, other than the Bills later in the year. They've got a decent schedule for the rest of the way. So let's see what the Patriots can do. All right, let's head over to the NFC West. We got the Rams taking on the San Francisco 49ers. This could be a battle between one of those final playoff spots, Xavier. The NFC West is looking very scary right now. Who do you have winning this game?
I like this matchup. Do you know if Purdy's playing or not?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think signs are leaning towards him playing.
Yeah, so Purdy, first game back, if he's back, or if it's Mac Jones. I feel a little uncertain there, but, I think it's been close because CMC, I feel like he could have another one of those games against LA where he just runs over the defense, throws a touchdown, catches one. But right now, like you said, Matthew Stafford, candidate MVP, this Rams team just, to be honest, looking too good, even for this 49ers team. But I'll give the Rams the win 27-17.
Yeah, I'm sticking with my goat, Matthew Stafford, at least right now. I think he's going to pull off a big win. 49ers is a team that's very injured. And Christian McCaffrey can't necessarily do it all. So I'm going to say maybe the 49ers get off to a slow start with Purdy, readjusting, and I'll say the Rams win this one 31-17. Let's go to Sunday Night Football. Steelers-Chargers. Now, this is an interesting game. These two teams really not necessarily the most. They're confusing, I think is the best way to say it, Xavier. I don't know where exactly to place either of them, but they are going to be playing in SoFi here on Sunday night. Who do you have winning between the Steelers and the Chargers?
Well, you're right. This is a definition of a wild card game right here. And, both teams uncertain, both defenses, I think, great. I think this will be a pretty fun game, but, I think Jay Herbert is just going to have one of his games that he just, goes crazy and balls out. I feel like Quentin Johnson might have a touchdown, maybe, Cleveland Ladd. But, I think the score is going to be 24-16. Chargers.
All right. Herbert hasn't been super consistent recently. His last game against the Titans had a pick six mixed in there. It was a bit of a weird situation, but man, I don't really believe the Steelers though. I think I'm going to pick the Chargers to win this one too. All right, wrapping things up on Monday night. Your Eagles are back off of a bye. They're going into Lambeau to face off against the Packers team that lost to the Carolina Panthers on a walk-off field goal. He scored 13 points last week. First off, shout out to the Panthers. They're not 5-4. But this is a big game, and we'll see. Do you think the Packers are going to be able to bounce back, or do you have the Eagles going up 7-2?
I mean, I'm asking this question to myself. Do you think that the Eagles should have a better record than a team that lost to the Panthers? And I think the answer is yes. So, I kind of have to go with them. Even if you're at Lambeau, coming off that bye, I think they're just going to go strong. And, they're looking healthy right now. And, they got Jalen Phillips. I think this is honestly too much for this Packers team if they lost to the Panthers at home last week. But, I think it still might be a brawl. I'll say Eagles 30, Packers 21.
I think it's one of the better games of the entire week as well. Green Bay in that loss to Carolina, their offense certainly was struggling. I think the defense for Philly could definitely help them there. And they really struggled against the run. Rico Dowdle, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. And guess who the Eagles have? They have Saquon Barkley. So I think that we're going to have Philly winning this one. I'm going to go alongside you here. I think the Packers are in a bit of an interesting spot. And I'll have the Eagles winning this one as well. Pretty big. I'll have 35-23 is the final score that I'm going to predict. All right, guys, that is the end of our episode. We're at the halfway point of the NFL regular season. Xavier, any last words before we wrap up the show?
Eagles are going to win, and peace.
Peace out, everybody. We'll see you all for week number 11 of the NFL season.